Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I'm sorry for my bad voice today, just coming back from COP29 coverage.
It's okay, we'll do all the talking.
Yeah, this is the result of Baku's very cold weather, so I'm sorry for that. And let me extend my gratitude to this amazing event's organizers for having me here and inviting me to have this discussion, this insightful discussion with our esteemed speakers, His Excellency Dr. Khalid Nuaimi and Sheikh Dr. Majid bin Sultan Al-Qasimi. We all know and we can see that here in the UAE, youth are already engaging in the agricultural sector. And we can see a lot of success stories. We can see them outside in the exhibition and they are accessible now, they are well promoted. And we can see them delivered to our doorstep within minutes today. This is why we are discussing the importance of engaging youth in the agricultural sector. I'll start with you, Your Excellency. You are the head of the Federal Youth Authority. What's your role to convince youth and to empower them to engage in the agricultural sector?
Thank you very much, Abdallah. I think it's good to mention that maybe I'm in the Youth Authority, but we have Sheikh Dr. Majid. He's the expert in sustainability in agriculture, so I'll leave the technicalities to you.
Sure.
Okay. So I just wanted to talk about the youth sector in general in the United Arab Emirates. I think we just heard now that the youth are from 15 to 24, but in the United Arab Emirates, we consider youth as between the ages of 15 and 35. And I think there's a big reason for that. When we talk about youth, we talk about youth who are going from education to employment to empowerment to being self-sustained. So we take them throughout that entire journey from the age of 15 to 35. And when we talk about youth inclusion and youth empowerment in general, I think it's very important to note that this has been a long journey that the UAE has been on since 53 years. And the journey to empower youth in general is more of a mandate, and it's a commitment from the leadership of the nation, from the leadership of the country, to say that we as a leadership believe that youth need to have a voice, they need to be included, they need to have access, they need to participate, and they need to have a proper environment physically for them to be able to engage properly. So when we talk about all of these factors, what do we do at the Federal Youth Authority? We focus on three things. We focus on building character, we focus on creating a suitable environment, and we focus on youth participation. Now, what have we done in terms of agriculture? You've heard mentioned just now that we had 100 youth delegates when it came to participation in COP28, but that is only one piece of the puzzle. I think we've done a lot when it comes to engaging youth in terms of farming, in terms of agriculture. An example is that even the road to COP, we've had 100 delegates who are actually farmers, like Emirati farmers that have their own farms. Even in our COP28 pavilion, we had a showcase for all those farmers in order for them to showcase their produce, their farms. And we've launched a list of 50 young Emirati farmers with the location of their farms, with the types of produce that they have. We have, all of the time you'll see in the UAE, we have youth circles that talk about agriculture, that talk about farming. And also when we talk about our environment, we have youth centers scattered all across the UAE. In these youth centers, we focus on having sustainable farming, having programs that talk about the importance of farming and agriculture. And all of these initiatives, today we've seen in the United Arab Emirates the launch of the initiative which we call Plant the Emirates. As the second year of sustainability in the United Arab Emirates, the focus has been clear, the focus has been huge from the top of the United Arab Emirates in terms of our leadership. And what we do in terms of youth is we ensure that they're empowered and enabled in terms of all the different types of activities they can in the agriculture sector.
Thank you. Dr. Majid, using your experience and expertise in the FAO, how do you see the role of the youth in reshaping the future of agriculture in the GCC and beyond also?
Thank you. The challenge is we always talk about youth contributing to today, but they are also building for their own future, right? They are going to inherit the land, the economy, and the environment. What I love about the way the UAE has been bringing youth and involving in every step, when I was previously in government and even today as a senior advisor to the FAO, youth is always incorporated because we think in multiple of generations, right? Our leadership is always thinking about great-great-grandchildren, not just what's happening today. Now, one of the most important things about what youth contribute today is, one, these are stakeholders that inherit what's happening, but they also contribute the sort of bleeding edge, if you will, of technology. Like today, example, my own children, they are digital natives. They have grown up around technology and made it so seamless where my son will use an audio interface to text to do things that I would have immediately thought I needed to type in, and he's only 7 years old. So the idea is how you get that to actually become part of business, become part of the economy. You have to invite and give them the space, and the Youth Authority is creating that initiative, but the private sector really needs to embrace this as well. Now, government, the FAO, we're here trying to facilitate that kind of space so that youth find itself more and more in the private sector. And I've seen across Abu Dhabi, the wider Emirates, many different federal authorities, local authorities, where they're creating more opportunity, even in our national service, to bring youth into functions where, as part of an alternative to national service, they are contributing to the food system. When it comes to actually production and land management, you have to understand our country was built on an initiative of agriculture as well. The late Sheikh Zayed, Allah yarhamah, he built our civilization on agriculture. He gave water to the people. He gave them land to manage. And now the youth we speak of sit with their parents and their grandparents who were the pioneers of that here in this environment. And we don't have it easy. And what the UAE has done in this sort of grand experiment is we are a lab by which we can demonstrate to the rest of the world how we can pioneer through this space. Our civilization, our whole economy is an experiment almost in motion for people to come and to experience. And the youth is at the forefront of this. And so we bring them in, we have them involved, and you can go on Instagram and TikTok today, you can go into the farms, and I love this list that I also want to have the list now, to be able to visit young farmers. In fact, there's a young gentleman, I don't think he passes my waist, at the Ministry's, the Ministry of Climate Change and Environment stand. And he was telling me just earlier this morning about how he was spending time with his grandmother, talking about how he watched her garden. And that's, by the way, where my love of agriculture came from my father. I spent time outside doing the manual work and understanding how our relationship with nature works. It's what I did for my children growing in our garden, because as soon as you have that connection, that's a whole other world from all these screens and all these devices. We have such an untapped potential in the youth, and I think that's what the federal authority is here working towards, to be able to unleash that creative power, that opportunity for not only our economy, but for the wider ecosystem of the world, because youth have that tenacity. I don't want to labor the point, but I remember hearing a very interesting description of startups and where youth have the ability. They are naive to all the challenges in front of them. They have all the energy in the world, and they have a real dream that they can reach for. And that is how you get innovation in startups, because you need to go in. I mean, I started my company at 40-something. That's really late into the game. But youth have boundless energy. They love what they do. And if we can understand that youth today are coming at it from a very different direction, we really still have a lot of opportunity to do great things here.
We're going to talk about this specifically
Inshallah.
also, inshallah. Your Excellency, there's a lot of challenges also. The land challenges, maybe the weather. But I think the most important challenge is the climate change, which is posing a really very high challenge. When we talk about young and youth going or engaging with the agriculture, the UAE is doing a great job, especially it held the COP28 last year. But in addition to that, what can governments and startups and maybe financial services agencies and companies, what they can do to empower these youth and to engage them more in the agricultural sector?
Yeah, I think a lot of these are valid challenges, but I think what we tell youth all the time is the biggest challenge is not the physical space. The biggest challenge is not the financial or the resources. The biggest challenge is your mindset. So I think it's very important for us to understand the mindset that youth are coming from. And luckily today, we see a lot of youth, even here in the United Arab Emirates, where a lot of people, they look at us as a country with immense oil resources. But in terms of diversification of our resources, the utilization of the financial income that has come into oil, having our leadership, even in companies such as ADNOC, etc., working on sustainable farming, sustainable agriculture, sustainable solutions for the future, shows an understanding that we have a different path to go. And these types of natural resources are not going to last us forever. And I think youth really understand that. And also they are the #1 advocates when it comes to sustainability, when it comes to climate change. And they're the #1 advocates because they know that these challenges are not going to affect them today, but they're going to affect their children in 50 years, their great-grandchildren in 100 years from now. So when we talk about youth and climate change, and we talk about governments, what governments can do. So what we've done in the Federal Youth Authority is we've involved youth from the get-go. All federal government entities today have targets in terms of having youth participating, having youth on boards of directors, having youth councils in their entities, having youth part of international delegations, having youth seated at the table when it comes to decision making, when it comes to those really high level, important, critical meetings, that there's always the factor of young employees within that sector who are specialized, who are seated at the table. We ensure that they're seated at the table. And the reason we do that is because we believe that the challenges of today are not like the challenges of tomorrow. The technology that we use today, if we learn to use technology like AI and technology like blockchain and technology like fintech, for example, we learn it today, it's going to change tomorrow. So how do we make sure that youth are able to handle and able to make the most advantage of their future is to make sure that they are present, but also to make sure that they have the ability to be adaptable and the ability to adapt to any change that comes to them. And the adaptability that we've seen in the United Arab Emirates, going from turning a desert green. And I think Sheikh Dr. Majid, he said about the late ruler Sheikh Zayed, he actually has an exact quote of what he said. He said, "Give me agriculture and I shall give you civilization." So when it comes to agriculture, we feel it's very important. I think also what governments can do is, today we have over 200 youth councils in the United Arab Emirates. And in each of the federal entities, in each of the local entities, and in a majority of private organizations, especially multinational companies, we have youth councils comprised of 7 to 15 members, with a chairman, with a vice chairman, with different types of, let's say, roles that they have in that youth council. And that youth council, most often than not, reports directly to the head of the organization. They report to the CEO, they report to the director general, they report to the managing director, and we oversee all of the plans and all of the ideas and all of the let's say, activations that they have. We've had youth councils who've met with presidents of countries, we've had youth councils who've met with ministers, we've had youth councils who've met with dignitaries. And when you showcase that to the world, when you showcase that, when you put that on the table, that if you are a young person in the United Arab Emirates who has a talent or who has the ability to be specialized in a certain field, particularly in agriculture, that we will give you that platform and give you access to decision makers to be able to implement, first of all, listen to your ideas, followed by implementing many of the ideas that you set forth on the table. I think that's the biggest message that we can offer youth, and that's the biggest opportunity that we always tell youth that they need to take advantage of when we're talking about them having a hold on their own future.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Dr. Majid, during our short discussion before the panel, you mentioned a very important point, which is the mental health. Maybe we don't have that awareness that, okay, considering the widespread of the technology and the AI and so on, you mentioned the mental health when it comes to agriculture and to our relationship with our land. Can you elaborate more on that?
Yeah, you have to understand that youth today, not everybody wants to be stuck in front of a screen for 8 hours a day. It may look like it on their phone, but ultimately they're using that to find the world. That's where they figure out where they're going to travel. It's going to figure out what kind of activities they can take. And for some, it even makes an impact on the choice of their career. And I see many, not only in the UAE, but in the GCC across, many young people who have become strong advocates for being agriculturalists or in nature. And they take their own spin, whether it's a pure pure organic offering or creating a company that helps you create your own farm at home. There are so many entrepreneurial opportunities that bring youth back into a natural environment where they're outdoors again. I started my career as a veterinarian. I used to work in Al Ain Zoo, and I was outdoors. That was probably the most fun I've had. Not that I don't enjoy what I do, but I used to be outdoors every day, summer or winter. But to have that opportunity and be able to grow something, not just the plants, but your own business, there's a lot of things that people can enjoy that way. I did something a long time ago. I used to spend a Saturday walking through my garden and doing an Instagram live. I was younger then, so I was cool. But I still get told, oh, I love the garden walkthroughs. And it surprised me because I thought, I'll just do it. But people really responded. And in COVID, it was also a very big thing for people to be able to see the green. Now, when we talk about mental health, I've had my own health issues, even physically. And it was when I started gardening regularly and tending to plants. I mean, there's even studies of just engaging with nature, whether it's forest bathing or tending to plants in a garden or even agriculture sort of produce, that it reduces cortisol, it heals slowly and consistently. And a lot of young people are turning to this, especially because they have access now to their grandfathers or their family's land and plots, even in their own villas. More and more people in the city are looking to do this. We have it in, literally very short distance. Something I did, I was staying at the Earth Hotel, and I was walking through the garden in the morning, and I stopped because I realized the birds were a swallow type, a bird I haven't seen in Dubai where I stay with the family. And this is the connection I'm talking about. The things we take for granted suddenly become very upfront when we've gotten away from all the noise. The youth are going to be really the messengers of this for our society. We're all going to be moving back to that because we can get very busy in society. We can get very busy. Events like this are very important, but for generational health, for longevity, that is the kind of things. And there are so many opportunities to be able to do that.
Thank you. Your Excellency, considering the blockchain, the technology, the cryptocurrencies, all these industries may be more appealing to the youth and maybe more profitable to the youth. Mm-hmm. How can you what's your message to these youth to tell them, no, agriculture is also profitable, agriculture is also a very good industry to work in and to invest in? Because you mentioned the mindset issue.
Yeah. So I think just walking around today's event, I think it's important for us to see how the government is really promoting the different types of entrepreneurial ventures that you can have out of your own, let's say, farm or your own location. Today, it's not only about the produce that you have, but it's also about the different types of activities that you can do. You can have a farmhouse that you can rent out on vacations. You can have a flower bed that you can sell flowers out of. You can have honey. You can have produce. You can have different types of things that you can do on the farm. And I think the utilization of this technology, such as artificial intelligence, I think the panel before us also tapped into this a little bit. I think the technology is a tool, but it's a tool that will enable more jobs and more, let's say, opportunities for youth when it comes to farming and agriculture. I think also it's very important for us to see what the government is doing in terms of giving access to youth in terms of what they have on their own farms. The government is supporting in terms of supply chain. Government is supporting in terms of data. Government is using this technology, such as, for example, drones, or using different types of technology to give farm owners, especially young farm owners, access and information that they can utilize. The government of Abu Dhabi today is utilizing an open data policy, where all access to data when it comes to farming, let's say, for example, the location that I'm in is sustained, and then it's overflowing in terms of a certain type of produce. It'll give you access to that information to say that myself as a young farmer, I'm going to be able to have produce on my own farm that's different than what's already there in the market. So I think when it comes to the access that youth have, whether it's land, whether it's opportunities, whether it's entrepreneurial ventures, is matched with government incentives and government access to data. And all of the, let's say, benefits are there for youth to take on board. All they need to do is reach out and take advantage of these opportunities.
Thank you. Unfortunately, our time is up, but I'll ask for 1 extra minute only. Please, if I can have a very concise and short answer about this from you both, please. There is maybe a stereotyping talking about that agriculture is not that socially, there is like finance and banking and so on is better socially than working in agriculture. What's your sentence about that, please?
No, that couldn't be farther from the truth. Agriculture is a people-first industry. It's right here. You cannot grow on your own without going to market. You cannot leverage technology, extension services. It's all about people. Agriculture doesn't work without people. So this whole socially thing, if it's about a status thing, quite the opposite. I know most families will have their own farm because it is literally your health on a plate, right? And there is so much in this country that could be understood about why farming for yourself and farming for your country is important. I mean, let's repeat it again, right? The country was built on an agricultural drive. It's how we gave nationals purpose with our land. And all the families, whether they're in the Northern Emirates or here, even as far as Liwa, farming for yourself is a matter of pride, is a matter of security, and a matter of giving to your next generation. So it is absolutely, both in status and in terms of social status, social reach, probably the most important industry.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you so. Please.
No, sorry.
No, it's okay. I'll just do a final closer. I think it's very important to understand that when you talked about Liwa, the government is having a lot of initiatives when it comes to developing, let's say, rural towns and cities in terms of the United Arab Emirates. And when we see the agriculture sector, they essentially develop in these faraway areas, further away from cities. So the government is really focusing on multiple smaller towns at a time, full development when it comes to all of these smaller areas, sustainability in terms of giving access to farmers to be self-sustaining. We've had a lot of stories when it came to youth, when you were asking whether they go into one sector or another, but what we found is also, I might be a government employee working from 9 to 5, but from 5 to 10 or from 5 a.m. when I wake up in the morning until 7 a.m. before I go to work, they're actually working on their own farm and they're working on their own projects. And that comes from the generational, let's say, or their father and their grandfather, or their great-grandfather working on that same farm and them following on those traditions. So I think I would agree with Sheikh Dr. Majid when he said that it's a people-first industry. And for us in the government of the UAE in general, we reaching out to people wherever they are in their own farms to make sure that those communities thrive and they remain where they are, and we don't alienate people who are into the farming and into the agriculture sector to move into big cities. We give them access, and we ensure that they are empowered in their own locations.
Thank you for your